Alex yawned and stretched as the sound of his doorbell echoed through the house. It was 4 a.m. He groaned, rubbing his eyes. Who in their right mind would deliver mail at this hour? He shuffled to the door, dreading what was surely another awkward encounter with Zylara, his alien mail carrier, whose visits had become an increasingly chaotic part of his life. When he opened the door, there she stood, her 8 limbs draped around a glowing, pulsating flower that was radiating some kind of neon hue. She chirped in a series of high-pitched clicks and whistles, which, thanks to the translator chip in Alex's ear, came through as awkwardly formal. "Greetings, Alex. I bring you a token of my admiration." She thrust the alien flower toward him with her front tentacle, a bead of what looked like sweat dripping from her forehead, her normally blue skin now tinged pink and quivering slightly. Alex blinked, taking a step back. Thanks, Ilara," he muttered, unsure of what else to say. The flower was humming, vibrating a little too much for his liking. "Your aura has captivated me once again," she continued, her voice breathy. "Your scent especially, it drives me wild." Alex sighed, trying to keep a straight face. "Look, Zylara, I don't think—" He was cut off as she lunged forward, not threateningly but enthusiastically, wrapping one of her limbs around his arm. "My people experience deep connections during our mating season," she purred, her eyes glittering with intensity. "You must sense it too." "Sense what?" Alex stammered, yanking his arm free as gently as possible. "Zylara, you've been showing up here with weird stuff for weeks. Are you okay?" Zylara tilted her head, confused. "Is this not customary in your culture? We Phyrexians show our devotion through frequent, passionate gestures." Her body rippled, emitting another burst of what could only be described as alien musk. The strange, sweet scent wafted through the air, making Alex's head swim. He coughed, waving the smell away. "Yeah, I'm getting that. But humans don't really do this." He gestured vaguely at the flower and her overly touchy appendages. Zylara frowned, retracting her tentacles slowly. "I see," she murmured, though her crestfallen expression suggested otherwise. She placed the flower down on the doorstep gently, its petals starting to glow even brighter. "I will return tomorrow with a more suitable offering." "Wait, no, that's not—" Alex started, but Zylara was already flitting away, her multiple limbs carrying her off with surprising speed. He sighed again, rubbing his temples. He glanced at the flower, which now seemed to be vibrating at a concerning frequency. Maybe he should have it looked at, but for now, sleep was more important. The next morning, Alex dragged himself out of bed, barely functioning thanks to his interrupted sleep. He shuffled into the kitchen and opened the fridge, only to be greeted by the sight of his eggs floating 2 inches off the shelf. He blinked. "What the hell?" He nudged one of the eggs. It wobbled in the air before settling back into place. Was this Zylara's doing? Her deliveries had always come with strange side effects, but this was a new one. As he made his way through his day, Alex kept finding more oddities. His cat, normally indifferent to everything, was now behaving like a lunatic, zipping around the house as if in a frenzy. The houseplants he'd barely kept alive were suddenly flourishing, sprouting new leaves at an alarming rate. And his phone kept picking up some weird alien signal, buzzing every time he tried to use it. By the time afternoon rolled around, Alex was already mentally preparing himself for another visit from Zylara. Sure enough, the doorbell rang right on time, and there she was, this time holding what looked like a singing potted plant. The plant warbled an out-of-tune melody, its voice somewhere between a screech and a croak. "Alex," Zylara breathed, looking more disheveled than ever, "I have returned to offer you this rare gift from my home world." "Great," Alex muttered. "A singing plant. Just what I needed." "You misunderstand," Zylara said, stepping closer. "The plant sings the mating song of our people. I hoped it would bring you joy." Alex stared at the plant as it belted out another high-pitched note. His neighbors must have heard this. "Zylara, I'm flattered, really, but humans don't do mating rituals like this." Zylara frowned again, her tentacles drooping. "But your actions, the way you've accepted my gifts, you must feel some connection." Alex scratched the back of his head, trying to find the right words. "It's not that I don't appreciate the effort. It's just, this isn't how humans show affection. We don't, bring each other vibrating flowers or musical plants. And, we definitely don't." Smell like whatever it is you've been spraying all over the place. Her crestfallen expression only deepened, and for a moment, Alex felt bad. But this had to stop. Before he could say anything more, Zylara pulled out yet another odd object, this time a glowing orb that hovered above her hand, pulsing gently. "This is the essence of the Phyrexian courtship," she whispered. "It represents the unity of two beings, forever intertwined in the cosmos." She held it out toward him, eyes gleaming with hope. Alex took a deep breath, rubbing his temples again. "Zylara, I think we need to have a talk." Alex couldn't take it anymore. The bizarre deliveries had become daily events, and each time, Zylara's attempts grew more absurd. He had to figure out what was going on. Was she trying to sell him something? Maybe she was part of some intergalactic pyramid scheme. It wouldn't be the first time humans had gotten tangled in strange alien business ventures. Sitting at his kitchen table, his laptop open, Alex furiously typed into the search bar, "Alien mail carrier MLM schemes." Thousands of unrelated articles popped up. He scrolled through forums with paranoid conspiracy theorists discussing alien mind control and pheromone manipulation. Alex rolled his eyes. These people were out of their minds. Zylara wasn't trying to control his mind, was she? Just as he was about to give up, his doorbell rang. He groaned, glancing at the clock. 10:30 a.m., right on schedule. He pulled himself up, dreading the interaction, and opened the door. Zylara stood there, now with what could only be described as a giant alien animal. It resembled a cross between a hippo and a bat, with its leathery wings spread out, blocking the entire doorway. The creature let out a low, guttural growl, its eyes locking onto Alex. Zylara grinned widely. "Alex, I bring you a beast from my homeworld as a symbol of our bond." She gestured grandly, her tentacles waving about as if this was the most normal thing in the world. Alex's eyes widened, his voice dry with disbelief. What is this thing?" "It is called a krivax. They are revered in Phyrexian culture. Only the most devoted mates gift them to their chosen partners. Its presence signifies my unwavering loyalty to you." The krivax huffed, a foul-smelling gust of wind hitting Alex straight in the face. He coughed, gagging a little as he took a step back. "Zylara, I don't know how to say this, but I can't." "Shall I leave it here for you?" Zylara interrupted, misreading his horror. She stroked the krivax's leathery skin lovingly. "It will protect you while you sleep, and it only requires live food twice a day. A simple creature for a simple life." Alex panicked, his mind racing. There was no way he was going to house a giant alien bat-hippo hybrid in his apartment. He needed to end this now, or she'd bring something even crazier next time. "Zylara, listen, this is too much. I appreciate the gesture, but you can't just give me creatures like this. I mean, where would I even keep it?" Zylara's expression faltered for a moment. She tilted her head, confused. "But is it not common among humans to gift animals during courtship?" "No, not really," Alex replied, scratching the back of his head. "We usually just, I don't know, talk to each other or go out for food, something simple." Zylara blinked, her tentacles curling inward slightly in what Alex assumed was confusion or disappointment. "I see. Then perhaps I have misunderstood." She paused, her gaze shifting to the krivax. "But my intentions remain. I have brought you offerings that express my deepest feelings." Alex sighed, realizing he wasn't getting through to her. He had to figure out a way to explain without causing offense, especially since Phyrexians were notoriously sensitive during their mating season. Offending her could lead to a diplomatic disaster, and the last thing he wanted was a headline about an interspecies incident. "Look, Zylara," he began, choosing his words carefully, "I get that you're trying to, show your feelings, but humans, we won't have the same customs as Phyrexians. The gifts, the animals, it's all a bit much for us." She frowned, her tentacles drooping further. "But you have accepted my offerings. Is that not a sign of your reciprocation?" Alex blinked. Had she really thought that? "Wait, you think because I took the weird glowing flower, the vibrating egg, and the plant that screams in the middle of the night, you think that means I'm interested?" Zylara tilted her head. "Does it not? Is this not your way?" Alex ran a hand through his hair, trying to suppress his frustration. "No, it's not. I didn't want to be rude, but those aren't things humans do when we're interested in someone. We don't do the whole offer bizarre alien stuff thing. It's just not how it works for us." Delara's eyes widened in surprise, her body rippling with a wave of color. I had no idea. I assumed my gestures would be seen as proper courtship. She hesitated, looking down at the Krivax. I have studied Earth culture through the various media available to me, but perhaps I have misunderstood. Yeah, I'd say that's an understatement, Alex muttered under his breath. Then louder, he added, I appreciate the effort. I really do. But we humans like to keep things a little more low-key. Xylara looked utterly crestfallen. She shifted awkwardly, her tentacles curling tightly around her torso. I see. I have made a fool of myself. You must think me foolish for trying to court you in this manner. Alex rubbed his face, feeling a pang of guilt. No, it's not like that. I mean, it's just different, that's all. I don't think you're foolish, it's just, I'm not the right person for this. She blinked at him, her alien features softening in a way that made Alex feel like he'd just kicked a puppy. Then what must I do to gain your favor? Alex froze, caught off guard by her sincerity. This was quickly spiraling into something more than he'd bargained for. Xylara, you don't need to do anything to gain my favor. I'm not looking for this kind of relationship, especially not right now. I'm just trying to live my life without giant animals in my apartment, you know? Xylara's shoulders slumped. I have miscalculated. I apologize for the disturbances I have caused. There was a long, awkward pause as the Krivax sniffed around Alex's feet, apparently losing interest in the whole interaction. Alex glanced at the massive beast and sighed. No harm done, I guess. Just, maybe, ease up on the deliveries? Xylara nodded, her voice quiet. I understand. I will no longer burden you with my advances. She hesitated before turning to leave, leading the Krivax away. But know that my admiration for you remains. Alex watched as she disappeared down the street, her massive creature in tow, leaving him standing alone in the doorway. Alex sat in his living room, staring at the alien plant that Xylara had left behind. It was quiet now, thank God, but every few hours it would let out a loud, obnoxious screech that made his teeth rattle. How had his life gotten this insane? He needed to stop this madness. But how? He couldn't keep dodging Xylara forever, and she clearly wasn't going to take a hint. He needed a plan. After hours of pacing, researching, and desperately trying to understand Phyrexian culture, Alex finally came up with an idea. If he couldn't talk Xylara out of her infatuation directly, maybe he could make himself as unattractive to her as possible. According to what little information he could find about Phyrexian mating rituals, they valued excitement, intrigue, and unpredictability. That was why she kept showing up with weird gifts and grand gestures. Her species thrived on drama and spectacle. So if that's what she was looking for, Alex figured he'd give her the exact opposite. The next time Xylara showed up, she was greeted not by the usual Alex in his casual t-shirt and jeans, but by a version of Alex she clearly wasn't expecting. He opened the door wearing the ugliest combination of clothes he could find, an old sweater that had seen better days, mismatched socks, and a pair of stained sweatpants that were a relic of his college years. To top it off, he doused himself in the most pungent human scent he could think of. Garlic and onions. Lots of garlic and onions. If Xylara was driven wild by his human scent before, this was sure to throw her off. Xylara blinked, clearly taken aback. Alex, you smell different today? She sniffed the air, her nose wrinkling in confusion. Yeah, Alex said, shrugging casually. I've been experimenting with earth spices, really into garlic lately. Great for the immune system. Xylara's expression shifted from confusion to mild discomfort. Garlic? Is that something humans use often? All the time. Alex said, stepping aside to let her in. The smell of garlic hung heavy in the air as she hesitated at the doorway. You want some? I just made a batch of garlic bread. Extra strong. She recoiled slightly. I appreciate the offer, but I must decline. Suit yourself, Alex replied nonchalantly, shuffling back into the kitchen where he had strategically placed several open containers of garlic cloves. He took a seat at the table and began cutting up even more garlic with exaggerated slowness, making sure the smell filled the room. Xylara stayed near the door, her tentacles twitching slightly as she tried to remain composed. I see you are busy. Perhaps this is not the best time for me to visit. Oh no, this is a great time, Alex replied with a grin. I've been meaning to tell you all about my recent interest in Earth bureaucracy. Fascinating stuff. Did you know that humans have entire departments just for processing tax returns? I've been studying up on it. Riveting material. Xylara blinked again, clearly struggling to maintain her enthusiasm. Tax returns? Oh yeah, Alex said, leaning forward, pretending to be enthralled by his own top. I see. Let me tell you, nothing gets the blood pumping like sorting through paperwork and filing forms. It's all about deadlines, compliance, and filing accuracy. You have no idea how exhilarating it is to get everything done just in time. Xylara shifted uncomfortably. That does not sound particularly exciting. Alex smiled internally, realizing his plan was working. Oh, but it is, he insisted, launching into an overly detailed explanation of tax deductions, income brackets, and government audits. Every minute that passed, he could see Xylara's interest waning, her tentacles drooping lower and lower as her excitement fizzled out. He made sure to stretch out the most boring parts of the conversation, throwing in random anecdotes about his experiences dealing with Earth's DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, waiting in line for hours, and the endless monotony of bureaucracy. Xylara, who thrived on grand gestures and emotional intensity, was clearly bewildered by his newfound enthusiasm for human tedium. You see, Alex continued, barely able to keep a straight face, when you've filled out your 1040 tax form perfectly, there's a real sense of accomplishment. It's like winning a marathon, except you're sitting at a desk, surrounded by paperwork. Xylara's eyes glazed over. Her body language screamed disinterest, but she was trying her best to stay polite. That sounds very thorough. Exactly, Alex exclaimed, pretending to be more excited. And don't even get me started on municipal zoning laws. Now that is a topic worth exploring. You'd be amazed how much detail goes into urban planning and building permits. At this point, Xylara looked like she wanted to be anywhere else. Her vibrant skin, which usually pulsed with energy, had dulled, and her tentacles were now hanging limply at her sides. She clearly had no idea how to handle this version of Alex, and for once, she wasn't trying to push any gifts or grand romantic gestures on him. After what felt like an eternity, Xylara finally stood up, her movements slow and uncertain. I see that you are deeply invested in your human systems. Perhaps I should allow you to focus on your studies. Alex smiled inwardly but kept his face serious. Oh, don't worry. I have plenty of time to talk about it. I could go on for hours. Xylara blanched at the thought. No, she said quickly, backing toward the door. I wouldn't want to disturb you further. You have important matters to attend to. Are you sure? I was just about to dive into a discussion on Earth's tax code revisions for the upcoming year. Her eyes widened in alarm. No, please, I must go. Urgent duties await me. Alex barely suppressed a grin. All right then, but if you ever want to talk about the intricacies of Earth's legal system, just let me know. Xylara nodded hastily and practically fled out the door, her retreating form looking more defeated than ever. Alex closed the door behind her and leaned against it, breathing a sigh of relief. Finally? Maybe now she would leave him alone. He couldn't help but chuckle to himself. Who would have thought that the key to driving away an alien in a mating frenzy would be the most boring aspects of human life? Maybe humans weren't the most exciting species in the galaxy, but Alex had found a way to make that work to his advantage. Now, he just hoped it would be enough to keep her from showing up again. Days passed, and to Alex's immense relief, Xylara seemed to have taken the hint. There had been no bizarre gifts, no unexpected visits, and, most importantly, no alien creatures trying to move into his apartment. The absence of her daily appearances felt like a long overdue reprieve, and for the first time in what seemed like forever, his life had returned to something resembling normalcy. Still, a part of him couldn't shake the nagging feeling that this wasn't over. He kept expecting to hear the doorbell ring, dreading what strange new declaration of devotion Xylara might bring next. But every day came and went without any sign of her. One evening, as Alex sat on his couch binge-watching a documentary about cheese-making, anything to avoid dealing with reality, the doorbell rang. His heart sank. He paused the video, his mind racing. Had she returned? After all this time, maybe the garlic and the endless talk of human bureaucracy hadn't been enough to completely deter her after all. With a heavy sigh, he stood up and made his way to the door, bracing himself for whatever was waiting on the other side. When he opened it, he was surprised to find not Xylara, but another Phyrexian. A much older one, with deep purple skin and a serious, almost regal expression. The older alien looked him up and down with a disapproving glance, as though sizing him up for some sort of judgment. "Are you Alex?" the older alien asked in a voice that carried a certain weight, like she was used to being listened to. Alex nodded slowly, unsure of what this was all about. "I am Eulys, Xylara's mother." Alex's eyes widened in panic. Xylara's mother? Oh no, this was bad. Very bad. If there was one thing worse than fending off an alien in the throes of a misguided mating frenzy, it was dealing with her mother. Hi. Alex stammered, trying to keep his voice steady. "I didn't expect, to see you here." Eulys crossed her arms, clearly unimpressed. "Xylara has spoken much about you. She claims you are a most fascinating human, unlike any other she has encountered." Alex tried not to cringe. "Yeah, well, I'm not sure I'd call myself fascinating. Just, a regular guy." Eulys narrowed her eyes. "Do not be modest. You have captured my daughter's attention, and in Phyrexian culture, that is no small thing. Xylara has been relentless in her pursuit of you." "Yeah, I've noticed," Alex muttered, rubbing the back of his neck awkwardly. "Look, about that, I've been trying to." "I am aware of your MPT as to dissuade her," Eulys interrupted sharply. "I have been observing from a distance. Your methods were crude, to say the least. Human spices? Bureaucracy? Truly, your species has a unique way of expressing disinterest." Alex blinked, caught off guard by her bluntness. "I just didn't know how else to make her understand," he admitted. "I didn't want to hurt her feelings, but we're not compatible. She's great, really, but I'm not the one she's looking for." Eulys regarded him with a scrutinizing gaze, her tentacles still and her expression unreadable. "Xylara is young, impetuous, and, like many of her age, prone to foolish obsessions. She believed she could win your affection with grand gestures, but she has miscalculated." Eulys paused for a moment, her tone softening ever so slightly. "You are right to reject her." Alex blinked in surprise. He hadn't expected her to agree so easily. "I am?" Eulys nodded. "Indeed, my daughter has always sought adventure and excitement, and in you, she saw something exotic, something different from the Phyrexian male she is accustomed to. But she failed to understand that not all differences lead to compatibility." Alex exhaled, relieved that someone finally understood what he'd been trying to communicate for weeks. "I just didn't want to hurt her feelings. I didn't know how to say it in a way that wouldn't make things worse." Eulys raised an eyebrow, as if considering him for a moment. "Your reluctance to cause harm is admirable, but sometimes clarity is the greatest kindness. My daughter is resilient, and she will recover. It is better that she learns this lesson now." Alex nodded, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. "I hope so. She deserves to find someone who's a better match for her. Someone who, actually understands her culture." Eulys's eyes gleamed with something close to approval. "You are wiser than I expected, human." Alex wasn't sure if that was a compliment or a backhanded insult, but he wasn't about to argue. "So, what happens now?" Eulys stepped forward, standing tall with an air of authority. "Xylara will be returning to Phyrexia. She has been reassigned to duties that will take her far from Earth for some time. You will not be seeing her again." Alex's relief was palpable. "That's probably for the best. I mean, I wish her well and all, but—" "Spare me your platitudes," Eulys said, her tone dry. "My daughter's emotional entanglements are her own to resolve. Your part in this is finished." Alex raised his hands in surrender. "Right. Understood." Eulys turned to leave, her presence as commanding as when she had arrived. But before she stepped out, she looked back at Alex one last time, her expression unreadable. "Do not forget, human, the Phyrexians value loyalty and directness. Should you ever find yourself in the company of one of my kind again, be sure to express your intentions clearly from the start." Alex nodded, feeling like he'd just been given advice he never wanted to need. "I'll keep that in mind." Without another word, Eulys left, disappearing into the night as silently as she had arrived. Alex stood in the doorway for a long moment, processing everything that had just happened. The ordeal was finally over. Xylara was leaving, and he could finally get back to his normal, alien-free life. He closed the door and let out a long sigh of relief. For the first time in weeks, he felt a sense of peace. No more bizarre gifts, no more singing plants, and no more alien mating frenzies to deal with. As he walked back to the couch, he glanced at the strange potted plant Xylera had left behind. It screeched once, then fell silent again. Alex chuckled, shaking his head. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to keep one little reminder of the weirdest chapter of his life. After all, how many people could say they had an alien love story that ended with garlic and bureaucracy? He sat down, unpaused his cheese documentary, and settled in, grateful that the universe had finally decided to leave him in peace, for now.